Hello and welcome to another macro video. Today we're going to look at the subject of what happens when a macro fails. So it may be that either it doesn't work at all or that it seems not to work. What's happening? It could be that, as I say, absolutely nothing's happening, or it could be that it actually generates an error. So you get one of these funny little boxes from Microsoft Visual Basic saying that there's some sort of error. So what do we do when that happens? Well, let's have a look. Suppose first of all that absolutely nothing happens. How are we going to respond to that? Well, I'm going to suggest that the first obvious thing to do is to run my custom keys macro, or by some means or other, if you know how to do it, bring up the customize keyboard window. Because if you've run from a keystroke, it may be that you're pressing the wrong key. So you think it's I want to run my silly macro, so I want Control Alt S. Is that it? Oh no, it's not. That's a different one altogether. Okay. So in other words, I've tried the wrong keystroke to run that macro. But don't forget, if that happens, if it's not the right keystroke, then it seems to me that you should change the allocation of that macro to that keystroke, because that was the keystroke that was most intuitive to you to think, oh, to run that macro, my silly macro, I use that keystroke, so change it. Okay, what should you then do? What you should do is to read the instructions, because it might be that you're expecting it to do something that isn't what that macro is supposed to do. So you may have got your ideas wrong of what macro is supposed to achieve. But if it generates an error, you need to think, well, hang on a minute, have I opened the right file or files for this particular macro to work? Do I have to perhaps put the cursor in a particular place in order to get the macro to work? Maybe there's more than one file. Is the cursor in the right file? Maybe I should have selected some text. So it's important, if it generates an error, to say, well, am I doing the right thing? So again, go back to the instructions and have a read. But it could be a programming error. So it could be something that you would need to alert me about. What sort of reasons are there that you might get a programming error? Well, it may be that the macro is out of date, because macros do have to change over the years because Visual Basic changes. So your macro may be an old one, in which case it's worth updating it. It may be that it's caused by my bad programming. Maybe you're using a different version of Word from the one that I use and the one that's been tested on, so that might be the problem. Maybe you've got different options set up on your version of Word. That might be what's causing the error. Or it could be my bad programming. Maybe there's a setting on your computer, the operating system setting. There are some macros that have been known to fail due to people in continental Europe having computers set up, the operating system set up for that. So that's something to check that may cause the problem. Well, I can help you to check that, if you know what I mean. Or it could be my bad programming. Maybe there's an option in how you use Word which is different from the way I use Word, so that might cause the error, or it might be my bad programming. Okay, so if it may be an out-of-date macro, then it's worth checking the version, and to do that you have a look at the macro, and suppose it was Dockalize. You've got the version number here, and look, this is a 2018 version of Dockalize. I wonder if that's the latest version, or maybe there's another one which will be more up to date. I've just written a new macro called Macro Version Checker, and you can use that to compare your version of the macros you've got with the latest version dates in the book. I'll demonstrate that in a minute, but there are more important issues to look at first. So if you need to report the error to me, It's very helpful to me if you can tell me which version of Word you're using. There are PC versions and Mac versions and so on. What's the version date of the macro? Just, we can double check that we've got the latest one. Where in the macro did the error occur, and what exactly was the wording of the error report? Those two items of information are really important, so I'll make those bigger. So I want to know, where are we? Come back. Those are the important things. I want to know whether these are, where in the macro did the error occur and what is the wording. So if we do try running macro, and oh dear, we've got an error. Okay, so the first thing to do is you can either sit and type out what that error message says, or if you hold the Alt key down, or I think it's Option on a Mac, and find the print screen key. So if I press that one, then let's just stop that for the moment. I then end up with a screenshot of that window, and there it is. So instead of typing it all out, I've got just a picture there, which can be sent to show what the error message said. So let's try it again. So I got our error message, press debug. So I want to know where in the macro the error occurred. So this window will tell me. You may want to just sort of make the window a little smaller, so you don't need to copy such a large picture. So again, Alt, print screen, and then we can close that and then stop the debugger. Okay, click in here, and if I paste it in there, let's have a look. So there's the place in the macro where the error occurred, and that information can help me to possibly, at least, diagnose what the problem is and then work out a fix. Okay, that's the important part of this video, but if you want to see the macro version checker working, how do you do it? Well, you open the Visual Basic window. There's all my macros. Select all and copy. To copy all the macros, put that out of the way. Then we want a new Word file, and then we will paste the, well, I won't paste it in because it'll take ages because I've got so many macros. Paste the Control V to paste the macros into there, and then you can run the macro version checker. What it will do then is it will load up from my website this file here, which is the file called macro list, which is a list of all the macros in my book and the dates, the latest dates of them. It's there in two forms, either sorted in date order, so that's the very latest one, the 14th of October, and then halfway down you'll find that they're in alphabetic order. So if you're trying to go the other way around and try to look up a particular macro and see what its latest date is, you can do it off there. But as I say, the new macro will do it automatically. So you click in your macro list, sorry, not the macro list, you click in your new file with the macros, run the macro version checker, and you'll end up with a file looking a bit like this, which is what it's got here is the name of the macro, the version that you've got in your macro in your Visual Basic, and then the version in brackets, that's the version in the book. Of course, because I've done it, it's the wrong way round, because the versions in the book are earlier than the versions in my Visual Basic. That means that I haven't updated the book. The book is behind what it says in my computer, but that will allow you to check whether you've got the latest version of any given macro. Okay, I think that's about it. If you've got any queries, drop me an email and I'll see what I can do. Okay, thanks for watching.